Lindrell Downs, founder of Cybersecurity Divas and recruiter for Fortify Experts. I have Bethany De Lude on the line here, and she is a CISO emeritus. What a title. I love it. Hi, Cecil. Hi, Bethany. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi. Thank you so much for speaking with me today. And as you mentioned, Bethany De Lude, I'm a 5-time CISO in a variety of industries. I recently retired, and I'm looking forward to what I will do to help the community in this new phase of life.
Love it. I love it. So how long have you been working in technology, Bethany?
Great question. This marks actually July 10th of last year of 2024 was my 30th anniversary as a cybersecurity professional. I've been a CISO for more than 15 years of that career. So you could pretty much say I grew up in cybersecurity.
All right. How did you get started?
Well, I really, some people have very planned, calculated careers. Mine was not. I graduated from University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill as a math major. I came back home. I had the good fortune of being from Maryland, was born in Baltimore. And as a math major from Maryland, I thought I only had 3 choices about my career and career opportunities. It was quite a parochial view. I thought I could be an actuary. So I interviewed with an actuarial firm. I thought I could be a mathematician, a math teacher, although it turned out that in my family of educators, that I did not have the special secret sauce that my mom, my sisters, my aunts, others in education had. And so the third choice was arguably the most preeminent intelligence organization, globally, the National Security Agency. So I threw my hat in that arena. I was fortunate to test into the agency and then selected a career. I was given a couple of different career options and chose information security. So that set off what has turned into a multi-decade career.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, Bethany, I appreciate everything that you've done and what we're getting ready to do and talk about diversity in the workplace. I have several questions I'm going to ask you regarding that. Understanding diversity impact, how do you believe diversity within the cybersecurity team contributes to a better security outcome and risk management?
Sure. Well, what I think is that something I learned early on in my career is that you really want to invite different perspectives into any problem you're trying to solve, and that it's often best even to invite contrary perspectives. And so what I found is within the team, I want to create an environment where people feel comfortable challenging each other, where people feel comfortable saying, I don't know, can you explain that to me in a way that I understand? And then that way folks who are vested in the outcome can weigh in on how we get to that outcome. So within my teams, as you can imagine, I think we grew up in technology around the same time. And there weren't always people that looked like us on those teams. I mentioned starting my career at the NSA, there was a time where the first firewall division was stood up. It was 42 men and me. That tends to engender groupthink. And I think groupthink is the bane of innovation. And it's the bane of getting to not just a solution that will work, but the best solution for the audience that needs to use it. What I noticed is as I started changing the composition of my team, with intention, looking for qualified people from different backgrounds, it really changed, the team dynamic. Folks couldn't hold to old patterns because they were challenged with new thinking. And that if I was there to amplify voices, call on people who their nature would be to be quiet and just say, hey, I haven't heard from you. Could you tell me what you think about this? Or I would ask the question of, I know what you're telling me is really well thought out and brilliant, and I'm just not getting it. Can you help me? Can you just break it down? Pretend you're talking to your great aunt who wasn't a mathematician from Chapel Hill, because you really break through the language. And then you could get people going, that's what you're trying to do. Now I get it. And I think I have some thoughts to share with you on this.
Hey, I love that. So decision-making and processes. How does diversity influence the decision-making process?
Yeah, so something that, a couple things. So it was interesting. I brought in a junior person and she was incredible. She had come to us. We originally were introduced to her as a part of the Year Up program. She went out in industry, got some experience, and had a 5-year goal of returning to us. And so when we were looking for this junior level position, I hadn't met her. She had been an intern before I had been part of my last firm. So I asked the team, I was like, I've always heard about this amazing young woman that was here as part of an intern program. Who keeps in touch with her? Like, I would like to meet her, and at least if she's interested, make sure she's in the pipeline for this role. Well, she was incredible, got the job. And what she did with her fresh perspective and her just disarming nature, she took folks who were a bit protective about their area. Now, as a leader, I think in terms of key person risk. And because she could come in and just kind of break down these walls, we, from a corporate perspective, we reduced key person risk. From a team perspective, we got a fresh eyes helping in a very critical area, the cyber program. And she definitely helped elevate it. And the person, I loved it, the person who had been kind of holding on to that institutional knowledge, and after a particularly challenging exercise, said that the next time will be able to be on vacation because she could handle it on her own. So it was great. And then I had another person and topic on switching gears. That was a highly technical situation to security awareness and training. I formed a women in technology cohort for our technology group because I wanted to make sure women felt, one, there's a safe environment, a very tight-knit community in which you could share challenges without worrying if because you were in the minority on a technical call that you could feel safe saying I'm balancing X, Y, and Z and not have to worry about how that might be being perceived. If you have childcare issues, if you want a promotion, if you think you should be getting a different kind of a raise or incentive. Sometimes women aren't naturally drawn to those conversations. So we created a community in which we could practice those conversations. We also had learn skills from each other. So if something new was introduced in the environment, well, let's make sure that our 40-person cohort was ahead of the curve in adopting these technologies. Let's teach each other. And then that builds confidence. And from confidence, you get stronger leaders and you get greater opportunities in skill building. So that was something that was incredibly important. And as an example from the security awareness perspective that came out of that, a person on my team put together a security awareness training completely targeted at the most vulnerable communities. And in the cyber world, that is women, the elderly, and children, both kids and teens. And so we structured a whole awareness program around that I don't think that would have been the subject had I not had this brilliant woman leader on my team and this community that it was prepared for. And then it turned out to be something we launched globally because it had such high impact. We saw how that topic resonated with what, is half our workforce, but that had been specifically engaged.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I know they hate that you retired. You've got some great ideas out there.
That's right. Always happy.
Always happy. No, I understand. So as you know, I'm a recruiter, so I'm going to ask you something regarding my recruiting site, talent acquisition and retention. So how has fostering diversity in cybersecurity teams affected your ability to attract and retain top talent in a competitive job market?
Sure. Well, one, I interview the folks, so that they saw me, right there, made a statement. And whenever we had our interview panels, regardless of the position, not all positions reported to me, obviously, but to make sure we always had a diverse interview panel so that folks saw that on our security program, everyone was welcome, and everyone was thriving. So I think part of it was that we were living the experience that we wanted to make available to others. So I think that is really helpful. And I think in general, as a cybersecurity leader, we all want to retain the talent that we have. And I think you do that just generally speaking by making sure folks have interesting work, challenging work, that you're able to persuasively get budget for that work, and that people know that they have a path. So that whether they're on a steady growth trajectory or they're on a like steep accelerated trajectory, because depending upon where you are in your life, one or the other might fit that moment, that you make those opportunities available for folks, and they can see what's necessary to get from A to B in their professional life.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So let me have one more question. Future trends, okay? What trends do you see in cybersecurity landscape that highlights the need for diversity teams to address emerging threats and effectively?
Sure. Well, I think so much of effectiveness is tied to, in general, just of a security program being able to execute its mission, is tied to communication and education, because you can sometimes folks want to think of cyber as still a technology issue, and it's not. It's a cultural issue. It's a strategic issue. It's a resiliency issue, and you need to look no further than if there's a bad cyber day, and whatever was someone's priority for that day, as high up as the CEO or board members, it just changed, and that topic is now a priority. So where having diversity in your group is, especially in my background working in global businesses, and even if you're just in a domestic business, it's very East Coast and West Coast are very different cultures, and having someone who can engage with your stakeholders in a compelling manner, you can better match the two parties in that conversation when you have a more diverse bench, and that increases the likelihood of your message being heard and then actioned. And
I love it.
Championed, because the ideal situation is when it's not you championing, the cyber program championing initiative, it's your business partner, it's your CEO. That's when you've nailed it.
I love that. I love that. But I want to get back to a little bit about you, okay? And one of the questions I'm going to ask you, you're coming up through this from your career journey, did you have any mentors?
Yeah, interestingly, I had some wonderful allies. There wasn't really back in the day. There weren't the same mentorship programs like we have now. Like in my last role, I was a mentor for several people. It was a formal program. We met regularly. I was an informal mentor for the ones who had to graduate the program but wanted to stay connected. So I've always had a wonderful network of folks that I could tap and bounce ideas off of, but I never had a formal mentor, as
Really?
I moved through the ranks. And it was hard because of that. It wasn't, initially I didn't understand the value in particular of having a mentor that looks like you, because I never had the opportunity to work for a female CISO or a female CIO or a female CEO. And then when I'm thinking about when I left the federal judiciary as an example, I was there the first CISO for our third branch of government. And when I left, many women came up to me and it was the congratulations, I heard you have this new role, we're going to miss you. And then they started crying because I had been that trailblazer, that example to them of what you could do. And it was still a very tilted environment as far as the leadership and, in technology and the female leadership in cyber. And I just boldly went forward. And that made me realize, because I treated the women as I treated the men. I took women's children out to lunch to show them that this is your future. If you had a daughter, I took men's daughters, had all those, eat notely. But the meaning that it held for the women was very different. And I hadn't understood that fully. So when I left the judiciary, I made sure that I intentionally understood whether I wanted it or not, I had and needed to own and honor the mantle of role model and mentor. And I've done that.
Love it. I love it. I love hearing that kind of stuff. It's so rewarding, really. Thank you for that. And I know they're saying thank you too.
Something I would always encourage when we come and talk to me and have certain ambitions, and there was always a but, and I was like, let's reframe that thinking. Not why you or why now, why not you? why not now? And I am here to support you. And just to give you some context, when I was, what I would say to them, 6 months after I had my second child, so I had two little ones, at home and a full-time job, is when I went to grad school at night. And
Wow.
it was, it was challenging, but it was also phenomenal. When you get to the other side of something like that, you feel so proud, and you did it. And it's something you always have. Like, I got my master's in information and telecommunications systems from the Johns Hopkins University in accelerated time with two little kids. And that opened doors for me, like that type of just determination and knowing that you can. And I think people get that from me, that I don't think there's anything I can't figure out. And I want the person on the other side of the table to know there's nothing special about me. You carry this inside you as well.
That is so true. I love that. I really love what you're saying. And it's so important for our young women, young men, but women to see that and hear it. And I really appreciate that. I have a really easy question. Sure. And it's kind of we're going to end off on this. I paint, and I do kind of stuff like that. And I'm a binge watcher, and I have a couple of books that I like to read. So if you had anything you say that you do on your off time when you're not cyber ready, doing stuff with cyber, do you have like a latest book that you read, or the latest movie, TV show that you've been watched, or favorite podcast? Anything like that?
Yeah, I do. I read a lot, and I have been rediscovering some of the classics, and they have a very different meaning when you read them at different times in your lives. And so, not to give everyone homework, but I'm from a strong legacy of educators, so I love to give people homework. And I recently reread the play Our Town. It's a very quick play to read, and just the meaning, it basically is about the extraordinary are those ordinary moments, in life. Okay. And you mentioned what else I do when I'm not, outside of work and thinking about cyber and preparing for cyber podcasts. I love doing those. I've been fighting a lot of dinosaur battles with my grandson. Kind of keep it to yourself. Extinction is fake news. They are everywhere, but we have them under control.
I love it. All right, Bethany, I really appreciate you today and coming on this, and because I think it's very important. And for our future divas in the making, I always say that, but I know they're going to really enjoy hearing what you have to say. And I appreciate just you being you. You're a bright light in this technology world, and I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. From being a cybersecurity divas and fortified experts, we want to say thank you. Do you have anything else you would like to say?
Just thank you. Some programs like this, it's conversations like these that will eliminate that gap in cyber.
We can do it now.
Exactly. Thank you. I appreciate it.